State calls Jessica Billy.
Good morning. Before you take a seat, let me swear you in. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the penalty of law?
I do.
Let me listen.
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
Could you please state your full name and please spell your first and last name for the record?
Jessica Billy, Jessica Billey.
Ms. Billy, what city do you live in?
Rio Rancho.
How long have you lived there?
11 years.
11 years. And what street do you live on?
Oakmount Drive.
Ms. Billy, I want to take you back to May 25th of 2015, last year's Memorial Day. What were you doing that day?
I stayed home that day. My husband had the day off, and so we stayed home. In the evening, we decided to get some takeout for dinner.
I think you're going to have to speak up just
Okay.
a little bit.
Sorry.
Maybe move a little bit closer to the microphone.
Okay.
So you said you decided to get some takeout?
Yes, for dinner. Yeah.
Do you know about what time that was?
Just after 8 o'clock in the evening.
Okay. Now, is there anything that helps you know that it was just after 8 o'clock?
I looked up the phone number for Rudy's Barbecue online and called them at 8:09, I believe. I was able to look at my phone records to see what time I called.
Okay. And so you decided to, so did you find out whether Rudy's was open?
Yes, they were still open.
Okay, so what did you do then?
My husband left the house right away, and shortly after he left is when I heard some gunshots.
Okay. Now, do you recall how many gunshots you heard?
Yes.
How many did you hear?
I heard 5. There were 4 quick gunshots with a slight pause and 1 more.
Now, what helps you know, or how are you able to recognize that those were in fact gunshots?
I've heard guns before. My family did a lot of hunting when I was younger. I have military and law enforcement in my family. And I lived in Chicago for a long time, so I'm familiar with what gunshots sound like.
Okay. So after you heard the gunshots, had your husband already left at that point?
He had just left. I picked up my phone to call him because he had just traveled down Oakmount and down Pine Tree, and I was very concerned that he had been involved in a shooting or something had happened to him or he'd been caught in a crossfire of some sort. So I called him.
How close is your house to the post office? Excuse me, well, not the post office. Let's start with the Esterbone Library. How close is your house to the Esterbone Library?
I don't know how close it is in feet, but it's behind my house. It's right around the corner, and so the back of my house faces the Esterbone Library.
Okay. So once you called your husband, what happened? Were you able to get a hold of him?
No, he didn't answer the phone, and I was looking out the windows from inside my house, and realized I could see a little bit better if I went outside, and I could see, from when I was inside, I could see there were a few people standing in the road and a police SUV. So I went outside then.
Okay. Before we go on to what you saw when you went outside, I'm going to show you a few exhibits. The first one, Your Honor, defense has stipulated to the admission of State's Exhibit 444 and 445. Let's start with State's Exhibit 444. Take a look at that. What does that show?
That's the back of my house and the windows that I was looking out of.
And if you could just kind of turn around and point to which windows were you looking out of?
I was able to look out of all of them. I had a clear view, but this one.
Okay, and were you standing up?
Yes. Yes.
Now, were those windows closed or open?
They were closed.
Okay. Was there any kind of, I don't know, insulation film or anything on the window?
They did have like a plastic insulation left over from winter, so I could still see things pretty well, but not details.
Okay. And then I want to show you also, well, first of all, when you were looking out, what were you able to see initially?
I could see about 2, maybe 3 people standing in the road, and the police SUV that was parked.
And then this is now, I want to show you State's Exhibit 444. And what is that?
That is the fence of my neighbor's house that I was able to look over. You can see the corner of my house.
Okay, could you just go ahead and, if you could just stand up and point, where is the corner of your house?
Right here.
Okay. And then now State's Exhibit 402. Well, first of all, before we go there, you said, so after you were looking out your windows, did you stay in your house?
No, I went outside. It seemed like whatever incident had happened was over since there were people in the road. So I went outside to the corner of my property to see if I could get a better look. And I was still looking to see if my husband was somehow there.
Okay. I want to show you now State's Exhibit 403. What does that depict right there?
That's the view I had from the corner of my property, looking across the neighbor's fence and the back of the library parking over onto Pine Tree.
Okay, and does that depict there how you were able to observe from that location what you were describing as the police SUV and the
Yes.
people in the street?
Yes.
Okay, and then I'll show you State's Exhibit 402. What does that depict?
This is across from the corner of my house across the neighbor's fence.
Okay. And then, let's see. And then finally, I'll show you State's Exhibit 400. There's an address there at the top. Is that your address in Rio Rancho?
Yes.
And what is that? It's a diagram, or I guess it's a Google map. What does that depict?
That's an overhead view of where my property is in relation to the library and the area where Officer Benner was.
So when you went out and you were looking over that fence, did you ever leave that vantage point?
Only to go back in my house.
Okay. Why did you go back in your house?
There was a police officer at one point that noticed me standing in the corner of my property, and he had come up from behind the SUV and sort of along the west side of Pine Tree, and when he noticed me standing there, he started to shout, "Get back," and motioning for me to get back, and that's when I realized that it was not safe to be outside.
Now, you initially did not speak to any police officers on the scene.
No.
How was it that you came to be in contact with law enforcement to give your statement?
I called the Rio Rancho police several times to let them know that I had heard the shots and had seen some of the situation.
Now, did you, at the time you were making these observations, did you know, could you see who the officer was that was in the street?
I could not tell who it was in the street.
Did you later learn who it was?
Yes.
And did you know Officer Benner personally?
He used to be my neighbor.
Okay. And what kind of a neighbor was he?
He was a great neighbor.
Did you ever know him to be violent or obnoxious or aggressive?
No, quite the opposite.
1 second, Your Honor. Pass the witness. Thank you, ma'am.
Thank you.
No questions, Ms. Shaw.
I should be excused?
Yes, Your Honor.
Yes.
Okay, please sit down. You call your next witness? Yes.
Can we approach you?
before you take a seat, I need to swear you in. Give me a seat today. Raise your right hand. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the counsel of law?
I do.
Now take a seat. We're going to ask you some questions before you testify in front of the jury.
Okay.
Okay.
Tamara, can you please state your full name and spell your last name?
Tamara Sue Andrews, Andrews.
Okay, and you're going to have to kind of speak up for the court reporter to hear.
Just get closer to the microphone.
Okay.
I'm going to ask you a few questions about that particular day on May 25th, 2015, Ms. Andrews. Where were you employed at the time?
Valero
Okay, and where is that located?
on Southern and Nicholas,
In what city?
Rio Rancho.
Okay, and how long had you been working there?
13 years.
Okay, I'm going to kind of narrow it in to that day. You had an opportunity to, well, do you recall seeing a video, I think that indicated a young lady coming into the store, and did you have an opportunity to look at that?
Yes, I did.
Okay. Now, did you recognize that young lady?
Yes, I did.
Now, you didn't know who she was, but you recognized her face.
Right.
Recognized it.
I didn't know who she was, but I recognized waiting on her.
Okay. Now, in the video, she was by herself, correct?
Right.
Okay. Now, prior to that time, I think that was about 7:50 in the afternoon, 7:50 or somewhere around that area. I think the video will show that.
Right.
Did you happen to see that young lady prior to that time?
I did.
Okay. Was it that same day?
Yes.
Okay. And was she with somebody at the time?
Yes, she was.
Okay. And can you describe the individual that she was with?
Describe him as about 5 foot, Hispanic, had a tattoo on his neck. That's
Okay.
skinny.
Okay. And what was your interaction? Did you have any interactions with the male? It was a male, correct? That was
Yes,
with us?
yes, male.
Okay. Did you have any interactions with him?
I didn't have interaction with them. I was just waiting on them at the counter, and they were taking a while.
Okay. And approximately how close were you? Were you the clerk at the time?
Yes, I was.
And approximately how close were you to them when they were in the store together?
Well, our counter is about just a little longer than this, so I'm on this side, they're on that side.
About 2 feet?
Yeah.
No, right. Like 2, 3 feet. Okay. And did you notice something that caught your attention to direct your attention to those two people?
Just how they were taking longer at my register.
Okay.
They were hanging out, looking at stuff,
Okay.
and taking longer.
Okay. Now, do you see that individual here today in the courtroom?
Yes, I do.
Okay. Can you point him out and describe what he's wearing?
Describe what he's wearing.
Yeah.
He's wearing a purple shirt, purple tie, black jacket.
Okay. Let the record reflect she's identified the defendant. Now, Ms. Andrews, you had you had heard about the shooting, correct?
I did.
Okay. How did you hear about the shooting?
The first time was
Right.
the girl I was working with, sister called and said a cop had just been shot.
Okay. And did at that point trigger you anything regarding the defendant?
No.
Okay. And what was the second time that you heard about the shooting?
The next day,
Okay. How did that come about?
I believe my manager called and, I'm not sure exactly how it went, talking to my manager, and she said that they had been in the store and I'm the one who waited on them.
Okay. And what did you do?
I didn't really do anything. I watched the news.
Okay. And on the news, did they show Mr. Romero?
Yes, they did.
Okay. And what did you think when you saw Mr. Romero's picture?
I remembered them.
Okay. Did that trigger your memory at that?
Uh-huh.
Okay. And did you, so you were called by your manager. At any point, were you called in to speak to, into the store to identify anything?
No.
No. Okay. Were you asked to look at a video, or did you look it upon yourself?
I looked at the video of her myself,
Okay.
and that was probably a couple days after returning to work.
Okay. Now, Ms. Andrews, were you ever shown a photo array of any sort regarding possible suspects that had entered the store
No,
by any of the law enforcement?
not that I remember, no.
Okay. And at some point, you were interviewed by defense counsel, their investigative team, and do you recall meeting at the DA's office and giving an interview?
Talking with them, yes.
And I believe at that point you indicated that they asked you, you talked about Andrew, you mentioned him by name, do you recall? At any point?
Probably, yeah.
And they asked you how how you knew that, and you informed them that you had seen him and you recognized him.
On the news, yes.
Right. Okay. Now, did they ever show you or ask you at that point to identify a picture when they were questioning you that day?
I don't believe so.
Okay. Now, Ms. Andrews, did at any point do you feel that your identification of Mr. Romero was tainted in any way by? Okay. What if anything, did the photograph in the news have with recalling Mr. Romero that day?
Well, the
Playing-
tattoo on the neck to begin with, and then just remembering, like I said, them taking longer at my counter.
Okay. Let me. Ms. Andrews, by you seeing him on the news, did that affect your ability to recognize him or to identify him?
Did it affect my ability?
Yeah.
No.
Okay. No further questions, Your Honor.
Any thoughts?
Good morning, ma'am.
Good morning.
All right, so you've had the opportunity to both speak with the police on the day of the incident, right?
Not on the day. I think it was a couple days after.
Close in time, right?
Yes.
And then you've also been interviewed by an investigator for the defense, right?
Yes.
All right. And you were asked today whether you could identify Andrew Romero based on previous interactions with Mr. Romero and a female, right?
Right.
All right. And initially, when you heard there'd been a shooting, you didn't remember these people who'd been in your store, correct?
When I heard about the shooting?
Yeah. You heard there'd been a shooting, and you had to be told by your manager that you had waited on him earlier in the day.
Right, right.
Okay. So when you hear there'd been this shooting and a police officer's been killed, right?
Mm-hmm.
It was your manager who told you that you had seen these people, right? That they'd
Right.
been in your store.
Right.
Okay. And so you didn't have an independent recollection immediately that the people in the store were involved in some way or were important at all, right?
Right.
Okay. And in fact, Mr. Romero, the man who you saw, was only in the store for a very short time, right?
Yeah.
A few seconds. You only saw him for a few seconds, right?
Not a few seconds. That's where they were in front of my register for, I would say, anywhere from 3 to 5 minutes.
3 to 5 minutes.
Normally, when someone comes in, we wait on them, we get them out.
Okay.
Yes, they were there longer.
Okay. And based on being reminded by your manager that these people had been in your store, then you thought, well, that you might be able to recognize them, right?
Yeah.
Okay. And then you saw several pictures of Andrew Romero on the news, right?
Mm-hmm.
And in the newspaper.
On the news. Yeah.
Are you a newspaper reader or?
I am, but it was the news first, I remember.
And you'll agree with me that Mr. Romero, Andrew Romero's face was flashed all over the news many times, right?
Right.
And it was from the newspaper, from these news broadcasts that you were able to see a picture of the alleged gunman, right? And know that his name was Andrew Romero, correct?
Right.
Okay. But today, as we sit here, your initial description was a Hispanic with a tattoo on a Hispanic male with a tattoo on his neck, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, that's correct?
Right.
And that was as detailed as your description ever became, right?
Objection, I think she made it a little bit more restrictive.
Skinny,
Hispanic, skinny, tattoo on the neck.
short hair.
And may I say, I remembered the tattoo because I was looking at it, quite a bit.
Okay. At any time, did either the Rio Rancho Police Department or the New Mexico State Police offer you the opportunity to view photographs or individuals and have you pick that person out as the individual who'd been in your store?
No.
Okay. When's the last time you saw a photograph of Andrew Romero on the newspaper or on TV?
When's the last time?
Yes.
Probably 4 or 5 days ago.
Okay, so before the weekend?
Probably, yeah.
But since the trial has started,
Mm-hmm.
right?
Mm-hmm.
And you knew that you were going to be coming here to testify in the murder trial of Andrew Romero, right?
Right.
And I can only assume you thought he would be sitting in the courtroom, right?
Right.
And the DA's office told you that you were going to be asked to identify the defendant sitting in the courtroom, right?
Right.
And you knew he wouldn't be sitting with the lawyers for the state, right?
No. I guess I didn't really think about it. I don't think.
Was it ever explained to you that there would be two tables and all right, but
Let the record reflect that she's nodding no, Your Honor.
But you assume for a moment that the person you were going to identify wouldn't be sitting with either Mr. Lopez or Miss Romo, right, at their table?
I would assume that, yeah, but
And just for the record, there are only two tables, right?
Right.
And
Right.
one's for the defense and one's for the state, right?
Mm-hmm.
And the
Excuse
only,
Excuse me, will you say yes or no? It's easier for me.
Okay. Sorry.
and the only Hispanic male in this courtroom sitting at one of the tables in front of the bench who has his short hair and is skinny, short hair, skinny Hispanic
Okay.
male, is Andrew Romero, right? Well, just for the record, Mr. Garrity is older and white, right? You see
Right.
him.
I'm looking because I really haven't been looking.
Okay, take a gander. Mr. Garrity, white guy, right? A little bit
Right.
older.
Right.
Miss Leo's clearly not a man, right?
Okay.
I'm not an Hispanic guy, and I'm not skinny, and I'm not short, right?
Right.
And so that's who's sitting at our table today, right?
Yes.
And the only Hispanic male with short hair who's kind of skinny is Andrew Romero, right?
Yes.
And that's the person you were asked to identify today, right?
Right.
The only short-haired Hispanic male who's skinny sitting at either one of the council tables, right?
Right.
Okay. Now, let me ask you a question. You said you focused on the tattoo, right?
Mm-hmm.
Is that, yes?
Yes, sorry.
I'm going to have you look at 289. What's previously been marked as 289. Now, take a look at that photograph. Take a look at the neck tattoo. Short hair,
Mm-hmm.
Hispanic,
Mm-hmm.
neck tattoo.
Mm-hmm.
Could this have been the person in the store?
No.
You don't think it was?
No.
Did you see who was in the vehicle that was pumping gas?
No.
Okay. You've never offered any testimony about whether there are other people in the vehicle, have you?
No.
And you don't know one way or the other whether this individual was in the vehicle parked at the Valero under the gas pumps, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am.
Mm-hmm.
No further questions. Pass it, please.
Mr. Lopez,
I have no further questions, Ms. Andrews.
any argument on this or not?
Your Honor, I think it's pretty clear that Ms. Andrews had plenty of opportunity to observe the individual. She described him. She described him as short hair, skinny, tattoo on the neck, and that she had an interaction with him in the sense that they had come up to the counter and she had observed him as well as the young lady that we will be showing in the video that they were with together.
And Judge, I don't think the state has proved by clear and convincing evidence that is required in New Mexico case law that this identification is not tainted. First of all, the setup in the courtroom is inherently unreliable. This witness saw a photograph along with Andrew Romero's name not more than 5 days ago. She knew she was going to be coming into court today to identify an individual, and there's nobody in the courtroom in front of the bench that resembles Andrew Romero other than Andrew Romero himself. This is inherently unreliable. The courts have told us from the Supreme Court down, have told us to be very cautious of in-court identifications when there's any chance of that identification has been tainted. And I think this identification, the state, and it's not the burden on the defense to prove that it has been tainted. The burden is on the state to prove by clear and convincing evidence that it has not. So we will reject the in-court identification just as we rejected the previous in-court identification based on the same standard of proof and the same evidence.
Your Honor, I believe that the taint that was talked about in the case law is basically with identification, lineup, et cetera, that they would have tainted in the case. So.
Okay, I'm going to find by clear and convincing evidence that her identification of Mr. Romero has not been tainted, and she'll be allowed to testify.
Okay, thank you.
How long will her testimony take?
About a half an hour for mine, Your Honor, because there's a video that we're going to be seeing. That video lasts, we've tried to cut it down. We're only seeing one camera as compared to the other cameras. We've shut that down. We have done some still photographs or screenshots, so it's going to go into the noon by the time maybe that.
Let's at least get her started.
Yeah, there's no reason why.
That's fine. I'm more than happy.
Get the jury.
All rise.
Ms. Andrews, I'm going to have to swear you in front of the jury again, okay?
That's
If
fine.
if
That's
you
fine.
swear in, we'll be going in. 418. It's just that when you say it out loud, you can't.
I understand. I understand. It's just a habit.
It's just enough.
Maybe she's a previous time. Let me show you before you take it. Do you swear or affirm the testimony you're about to give is the truth and the reality of law?
I do.
Take a seat.
Apologize, Your Ms. Andrews, will you please state your name, your full name, and please, again, spell your first and last name for the jury?
Tamara Sue Andrews, Tamara and Andrews.
Okay. Ms. Andrews, where do you live?
In Rio Rancho
Okay, how long have you lived in Rio Rancho?
since '88.
Okay, and currently, where are you employed at?
Valero.
Okay, now Valero, for those who may not know, what is Valero?
Valero is a convenience store gas station.
Okay. And approximately, is that gas station in Rio Rancho
Right.
that you work at?
Yes,
Okay. County of Sandoval?
yes.
Okay. Now, Miss Andrews, how long have you worked there?
13 years.
13 years. And what do you do there?
I'm an assistant manager.
Okay. Now, let me just show you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 445. Let me see if I can. I know begins. Okay, that's better. Okay. Can you identify, well, let me pull this back, I'm sorry. State's Exhibit 446. Okay. Looking at State's Exhibit 446, can you identify to the jury, just kind of showing, kind of turning around and indicating where the Valero station is located?
Right here?
Okay, if you can just kind of they can't see your finger, so.
Okay.
Okay. On that screen.
Oh, this screen.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Right there.
Okay, so that Valero station is on the corner of Southern and Nicholas. Is that the way I'm reading it?
Correct.
Okay. And is that the Valero station that you've been working at for the last 13 years?
Correct.
Okay. Now, as a clerk, as an assistant, I guess assistant manager, is that
Right.
correct? What are your duties there?
Wait on customers, order stuff, do audits, everything,
Okay.
basically.
And what is your training in as part of being a clerk for Valero? Is there any training that they give you?
They give us all kinds of training, yes.
What, any type of recognition training, security training, anything of that nature?
Yes, we take, well, security training we do once every 3 months, I believe.
Okay. And what does that entail? What does that consist of?
It consists of money handling, robberies, quite a bit of stuff, actually.
Okay. Now, I'm going to refer you back to May 25th, 2015. Okay, and I'm kind of narrowing it down to the afternoon hours, later evening hours. Okay, were you working at the store then?
I was.
Now, what were you doing there? I'm just clerk. I mean, you were
I
waiting
was-
on customers.
Cashiering, yes, doing the
Okay.
usual, stocking stuff, and waiting on customers, back and forth.
Okay. Now, at some point, did you have an opportunity to be told about a particular shooting that had occurred where an officer had been shot?
Right, there was a phone call to the girl I was working with. Her sister was saying that an officer had been shot over by where she lived.
Okay. And were you contacted regarding that? I mean, did anybody contact you by law enforcement? Or were you contacted by your manager?
You're not talking about that day.
That particular, not that day, but sometime
next-
afterwards, I'm sorry.
That's okay. The next day, I was talking to my manager because she's talking to her on the phone, and she said that I was the one who waited on him.
No, it's just not for the truth of the matter, sort of just to show what she did regarding coming in. Okay. Go ahead.
The next day on the phone, I was talking to my manager. She said I was the one who had waited on them.
Okay. Now, did you have occasion to see do you have security cameras?
Right.
Okay. And do you videotape what goes in and out of the store, who comes in and out of the
Yes.
store? Okay. Did you happen have occasion to look at a video of the day of May 25th, 2015 at approximately 7:50 p.m.?
Yes, I did, a couple days later.
Okay. And did it show who had come into the store around that time?
Yes.
Okay. If we could show that video, Your Honor. It states Exhibit 418. Now, just hold on for a second, okay? Now, I'm going to zoom in here and try to get a better shot of, oh, it's not there. At the top right-hand corner, if you can stand up and take a look at that, Ms. Anderson. Wait, we can stand up, Your Honor. It gives a time that it is, can you read it for the ladies and gentlemen of the jury?
7:49.
Okay, and the date that it is it's indicating?
May 25th, 2015,
And when you say 7:49, is it AM or PM?
PM.
Okay, thank you. You can have a seat, Ms. Anderson.
Thank you.
Go ahead, play. Stop there. That's you, is that correct, Ms. Andrews?
That's right.
Okay, go ahead. Okay. Do you recognize that individual, Ms. Sanders?
Yes.
Okay. Okay, go ahead. Does it have sound? Oh, shoot. Hold on. Excuse me. I was hoping to have sound. Yep. What was she, since we can't hear the sound, unfortunately, what was she asking you? Do you recall?
To put gas.
Okay. And how much gas was she asking to put in?
$5.
Okay. And at some point, did she, I'm gonna stop it here in a minute. Go ahead. At some point during that period of time, did she refer to what pump she was referring to put gas?
On pump 5.
Okay, did she refer to what vehicle that she indicated?
The Durango.
Okay, so she pointed and said the Durango pump 5?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, you're gonna have to, yes or no, ma'am?
Yes,
Okay.
excuse me.
Do you recall what she's doing right there?
She went over to look into the back room and the restroom area.
Okay. At some point, did she buy anything else other than purchase the gas?
Just the snacks.
Do you recall what that was?
No.
Okay. All right. That it? Okay, good. Thank you. Oh, let me go back on. I apologize. right there. Again, can you stand, Ms. Andrews, if you don't mind, and read the top, what the time was? It appears that she was exiting around that period of time.
7:52 p.m.
Okay. Okay, thank you. When she referred to the Durango and Bay 5, did you happen to look out the window and see anybody or see the Durango itself?
I probably did glance out and look at the vehicle like I normally do, and no, I did not see anybody.
Okay. Now, let me show you some photographs of the station. First of all, let me show you what's been what's marked as, and it's been admitted as States Exhibit 299. Oops, I gotta go back. Is that a screenshot of the other security camera that you have that shows when people enter into the store?
Correct.
Okay. Is that the same young lady that you saw here in the video?
Yes.
Okay. And she's entering into the store at this point, correct?
Yes.
States Exhibit, what's been admitted as 300. That's when she enters the store, correct?
Yes.
Okay. And you have a security camera that is on the outside showing people that exit, or you see the front parking area.
They're on the sides.
Right, they're on the sides.
Side walkways.
Show you what's been admitted as States Exhibit 301. Would that be this same young lady exiting the Valero?
Yes.
Okay, on May 25th, 2015, around 7:52.
Yes.
Yeah, okay, someplace around there. Now, when she asked you about pump 5, let me just make sure that show you States Exhibit 297. Is this a photograph of the outside of the Valero, looking from the outer area toward the store?
Yes.
Can you, by turning around, you don't have to stand up, but just kind of point where pump 5 would have been?
It's this one right here.
Okay. Let the record reflect that she's pointing to the bay closest to that vehicle in the gas pumps, Your Honor. Okay. Looking at States Exhibit 296, is that a view looking from the store?
Yes.
Okay, and again, can you point to see where pump 5 would be? Okay, thank you. Now, looking back at States Exhibit 446, which has been admitted, the Google map, and I'm going to try to zoom this in. Okay, there are certain ways of coming out of the Valero station, correct?
Right.
Okay. Is there one that comes out towards Southern, directly onto Southern? Can you point that out?
It's right here.
Okay. Now, can Southern, coming out toward from the Valero onto Southern, is it possible coming out that exit to go east, meaning taking a left turn?
No, because you have a median there.
Can you kind of point to where the median is? Okay. So there's a median. You can't turn left, you've got to turn right,
Right.
correct? And turning right would be east or west?
West.
Okay. And as you turn west, is one of the nearest intersections, one of the biggest, is Unser? You
Correct.
would run into Unser? Okay. Now, I'm going to show you what's been admitted as State's Exhibit 2, I think, 98. Well, maybe I gotta widen it up. That exit that we were talking about, that exits onto Southern, where would that be located?
It's right here.
Okay. So near Bay 5 out that exit, correct?
Yes.
Okay. Now looking at State's Exhibit 445, another Google map. That kid, let's see, boy, that's, okay. Can you show to the jury where Twister's Burger and Burritos is located?
Right here.
Okay, it's pretty much in the same block?
Yes.
Okay. Now, thank you, Ms. Evans. Let me ask you a couple of questions now, Ms. Sanders. We've established that you have seen, were you able to, at some point, did you see the news regarding a picture of the young lady that was in the store? At some point, was a picture of her shown?
Eventually, yeah.
And was that Tabitha Littles?
Yes.
Okay. Now, prior to 7:50 p.m. on the video and everything else, and prior to that video, did you happen to have occasion to see Miss Littles in the store before that time? That day, that afternoon?
Yes.
Okay. Was she with somebody?
Yes.
Okay. Male or female?
Male.
Okay. Can you describe the male?
He was about 5 foot, Hispanic, skinny, and had a tattoo on his neck.
Okay. And can you tell the ladies and gentlemen of the jury what interactions or what observation did you have to remember them?
They were at my counter. I'm the one who waited on them, and they were there for longer than usual.
Okay. And was there a lot more people in the store than what we saw on the video?
At the time,
At the time that they were in there.
at the time they were in there, there were more people in the store than the video.
Now, Ms. Andrews, do you recognize anybody in the courtroom right now that was the male with Miss Littles?
Objection.
Yes.